because it's too radioactive.
All right. What about using sand and concrete as they did at Chernobyl?
That's the final option. I think right now the Japanese government should put the Air Force on alert. That's what Gorbachev did in '86, put the Red Air Force on alert, armed them with helicopters, borated water, sand, concrete, and dumped 5,000 tons of concrete on the Chernobyl reactors, stopping the reaction.
Even at Chernobyl, the so-called sarcophagus, that's what they called it, it eventually cracked and leaked radiation into the atmosphere. I think it's still leaking, right?
It's still on. The core is still melting into the earth. But the main thing is to stop it, because if this thing has an uncontrolled release of radioactive fission products, we're going to lose a good chunk of northern Japan. Japan as a nation's integrity could actually be threatened. And that's why I think the main thing right now is to stop it. We can debate about secondary long-term effects later, but the main thing is to stop the bleeding.
And plutonium is actually created during the fission process. It's more dangerous than uranium.
That's right, and also realize that Unit 3 has MOX fuel containing plutonium. So we have this cocktail of very dangerous fission products, and at Chernobyl, about 25% of the core came out into people's backyard.
Yeah, plutonium has a 25,000-year half-life. I think uranium is, I looked it up, 700 million years half-life.
We're talking about the life of the solar system, 4 billion years for uranium U-238. A meltdown is forever. Parts of the Chernobyl area are a dead zone, even today.
Is it possible that the quake smashed the rods into each other, and that could cause it could cause a nuclear reaction?
It's possible because we don't even know the state of the generators, the state of the core. We can't even get close to it. There's no electricity there, no pumps, no cooling water. The rods are exposed, up to 70% core damage in Unit 1, and we simply don't know what's happening because it's too dangerous to get in there. And when they evacuate, the thing is going to be in free fall. Meltdown is inevitable once they have full evacuation.
Now, that sounds awful. And at the same time, we're getting reports that traces of radiation are surfacing in Southern California.
Well,
do we need to worry?
You and I have traces of the Chernobyl accident of '86 in our bodies. Radioactive iodine from Chernobyl hit New York City and elevated the milk. However, it's microscopic, so I wouldn't worry too much about it.
It's not going to do any harm.
Not going to do any harm, and hey, we all have Chernobyl inside our bodies.
Yeah. Do you envision that further plumes will come our way, but those will be equally minuscule?
There is a ray of hope. They're stringing electrical cables, and they want to turn the generators back on again. But the problem is that the generators could explode. They're damaged by the earthquake. We don't know what's going to happen. And again, the workers have to evacuate as soon as it gets too radioactive. And once they abandon ship, the ship goes down. That means full-scale breach of containment. That is the China syndrome.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a full-scale China syndrome meltdown happening now. This happened over 2 years ago, or is it 3? Well, TEPCO and the media are showing us all these pretty and clean pictures of the cleanup operation. They're only showing you pictures of reactor number 4. Reactor number 5 and 6 were not damaged because they were offline during the earthquake and tsunami. But reactors 1, 2, and 3 are in full meltdown. There's been huge explosions. We saw just a few days after it. There were proton beams emanating from the site. That only happens from a nuclear and hydrogen chain reaction. China syndrome is when there's a containment, the containment vessel is breached and the fuel rods melt right through the containment vessel into the ground, and it just keeps going down into the ground, into the water table. Now, fuel rods cannot be pulled out of a melted core. They're very long, and they're meant to be pulled straight up with these special cranes that are built on top of the reactor, and the fuel pond is actually above the containment vessel. So when you have meltdown, it's one big solid mass of uranium, plutonium. This stuff can't just be pulled out and extracted. It's got to be cut into small pieces. It's highly radioactive, and it's probably sitting deep in the ground right now. And unlike Chernobyl, you can't just put a sarcophagus and some sand around it. it's very close to the ocean. So now that the cores have melted down, it's down in the water table. You can throw whatever you want on top of it, but that radiation is still going to leak into the water. I mean, it's in the ocean practically. I don't know how they're going to fix this. They would probably have to build a seawall around the entire site, pump all the water out. You know, and you dig a hole at the beach, water fills it up right away. Well, the same thing would happen at Fukushima. But they have to build a huge sea gate, pump all the water out, and then go down and dig out the melted fuel so it doesn't keep contaminating the ocean. Do you know how much money that would cost and how long it would take? That is the last resort. But I don't even think they're up for that. But they're going to have to if they want to survive. You know, unless the elite have figured out a way to counter radiation that they're not telling us about. I mean, by the way they're acting, it looks like they do have a cure for it because they're not doing anything about it. So we'll see how the situation develops. The plume is hitting right about now. Oh, and I think I just read that there's a tropical cyclone that is going to be hitting Fukushima soon. So we'll have to just wait and see what happens when another hurricane hits. You know, they can't even get workers to clean up the site. The latest report I heard was they were hiring homeless people for the cleanup operation. Now would be a good time for the Pentagon and the tech companies to break out some of those Terminator robots, because those are the only things that you could have working at the site. It is too highly radioactive. So there you have it. Rising radiation levels on the west coast from Fukushima, winter storms, weird weather, global cooling at the same time as global warming, the West Virginia chemical spill, EMP, solar flares, and the debris trails from ISON are supposed to be hitting us. There's reports of fireballs, and supposedly we're going to be hit really hard. So let's see what happens in the next week. I'll see you next week. If you haven't started prepping by now, then don't. I guess, I don't know, go to the liquor store, go play your favorite video game. Because if you're not prepping by now, I guess you don't have any plans on surviving anyway, or you don't have a will to live anyway. So don't worry about it.
Survival of the fit, only the strong survive. We live in this till the day that we die. Survival of the fit, only the strong survive. We live in this till the day that we die. Survival of the fit, only the strong survive. We live in this till the day that we die. Survival of the fit, only the strong survive. Open your eyes and get wise.
Till next time, I am your host, Vincent Von Doom, and you have been listening to Disaster Survival Magazine's weekly radio broadcast. Don't forget, you can catch us on the web, disastersurvivalnetwork.com, and you can email me at disastersurvivalmagazine@gmail.com or survive@disastersurvivalnetwork.com. See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya. That is, unless you're the guy who owns that $11.5 million bunker.
Wise Company emergency meals are packaged and proportioned perfectly in order to make sure that there is no waste. Traditional food storage items can be time-consuming and difficult to prepare, not to mention leaving you with a meal that is hardly appetizing. What good is emergency food if you and your family don't love the taste?
And no more space than a washer and dryer takes up, you can store enough ready-made meals to feed a family of 6 for a full year.
Wise Company meals are designed to protect your most valuable asset, your family.
For 5% off and free shipping on all Wise Food Company products, use promo code WISEFREESHIP $5 off from our website, disastersurvivalnetwork.com. Go to the lower left-hand corner and click on the Wise Company logo. Once again, that's disastersurvivalnetwork.com.